Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pash On Podcast. Let's get started with your host, Brian Pash.
Hi, this is Brian Pash, and I'm excited to have on today's podcast Greg Gifford. He's the VP of Search at SeachLab Digital, which is a specialty firm offering dealers the best in digital marketing services with an emphasis on local search like SEO and Google business profiles. Don't forget, they do PPC as well, but we're going to get into it. Greg, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Well, you took a hiatus from the automotive industry, and I was so glad when you came back. I've learned a lot about SeachLab Digital. Where are you guys based out of?
So headquarters is in Chicago, and we also have an office in Dallas, and that's mainly because I didn't want to move to Chicago. So we've got an office in Chicago, that's our headquarters, an office in Dallas that's almost as big as that one, and then we've got some remote people as well.
Great. And I'm excited that you're in Texas because in May, we're bringing the Digital Marketing Strategies Conference to Austin. So that's a quick hop for you to be part of our new conference format.
I am excited. I'm a little bummed that it's not in Napa anymore because that was always a blast, but I'm excited to see what you guys do in Austin. And yeah, it'll be easy to get there.
Yeah, Austin's a great city, and we actually have some very interesting connections in Austin, which could bring out some celebrity speakers. So we'll see. Yeah, it's going to be awesome. I started my business in 2005 with SEO. My Twitter handle is still automotive SEO. Greg, let's set the stage. 90+% of all sales that dealers have come from local consumers. So local search, which we would define, say, as SEO and the optimization of Google business profiles, it seems to have quieted down in the automotive industry. Dealers aren't talking about it as much. I'm still bringing it up. I'm excited about it. Why should dealers be excited about the services that Search Digital offers?
Well, one of the things that I'm talking about in my digital dealer presentation this fall is that, some of us, you've been talking to conferences forever. I've been talking to conferences for over a decade now. And a lot of the stuff we're telling them to do is the same stuff we've been saying for 10 years. Now, yeah, there have been some Google updates, but a lot of the basics haven't really changed. And there's still so many dealers not doing it. And the reason they should be excited about it is because there's such a massive opportunity for most dealers to get better visibility and do more business with some SEO. The problem is they're not thinking about it, especially with the inventory shortage that we've had with, the post-COVID stuff. Nobody's really struggling to sell new cars. So they think that they don't have to worry about marketing, but they're not thinking about all of the other opportunities of selling used cars or buying cars from the public or doing SEO for recruiting or fixed ops is a massive opportunity. So there's so many ways to achieve growth through organic search that dealers aren't really thinking about. And then there's a lot of new things that have happened in the last few years with Google business profiles. Other than the stupid rebrand to Google business profiles, we're going to call it Google My Business for like another 10 years probably. But there's a lot of exciting stuff there too that dealers can do that wasn't possible to do before. And some dealers still haven't caught on. So there's a lot of really fun stuff that can be going on. And that's why dealers should pay attention.
I'm currently, Greg, on a national speaking tour sponsored by Spectrum Reach. And I'm going into local markets and I'm talking about four things. And one of the four things is preparing an EV marketing strategy. And I was challenging dealers with some research from Accenture that showed what were the top fears that consumers have, what were the common questions that consumers were asking. And I asked them, how many of you have at least 10 pages of content on your website regarding these common questions that EV shoppers have today and will continue to have? And the answer was zero.
Yeah, exactly.
Like zero. And when you look at the Accenture study, things like range anxiety, how far can each model go? Where can I charge my car? What's the difference in different charging technologies, right? A home charger
And do
versus
I need a charger at home? And yeah, all that stuff.
right. And these are amazing opportunities for dealers because I remember back in the day before there was even Google Maps showing in a search results page, is that first to act wins. First to act in each local market can win the search. And so we're going to talk about these opportunities. Greg, you have been one of the few people like myself that have not given up on what we're passionate about, which is local search. We haven't sold our companies. We haven't become car salesmen. We love marketing. Tell us about the new research project you're working on, and what does that mean for your customers and potential customers in the months ahead?
Yeah, so everybody always talks about SEO best practices. Do this, do this, do this. And usually there's a lot of agreement, but dealers kind of have to just trust that whoever they're listening to on stage or in the video or in the podcast or reading online knows their stuff. And there's not really much proof to that other than, hey, I've seen this guy speak a bunch of times before. And so we know I'm lucky in that I've always been a popular speaker at conferences that are just digital marketing focused, not specifically for auto dealers. So I'm friends with a lot of other top experts in SEO across the globe. And a lot of these people do a lot of research and then it gets reshared. And I just finally said, you know what? We need to do our own research and we need to look at things because we know that Google treats different verticals differently. So let's, instead of just doing research and saying, here's how local search works across the board, let's pick a couple of important verticals and see how things work within that vertical and then how things compare from one vertical to another. So we pulled a bunch of data using a tool called Places Scout on Google business profiles for 3 different verticals: car dealers, cannabis dispensaries, and personal injury attorneys. And with all the data that we pulled, it ended up being over 1.6 million data points on those 8,700-ish profiles. And we ended up with about, I don't remember the number off the top of my head, but like 2,400 Google business profiles for car dealerships. We actually had more profiles than that for car dealerships, but as you know, dealers are able to set up a separate parts department and service department profile. We didn't count those. We're only looking at the primary dealership sales focused Google business profile.
Those are the ones that get the most traffic.
Right. So we've got about 2,400 of those profiles. And then we're only looking at the Google, the map pack rankings, which it used to be the map on top with the 3 results underneath. Now the map's been moved to the right. So when you do any search, you get those 3 results with the map. And then you can click more locations to see beyond just the top 3. So for each of the search queries that we did, we went through position 1 through position 20 in like 14 to 18 cities with 5 or 6 different queries. So for us, we did Ford dealer, Toyota dealer, Kia dealer, Jeep dealer, and used car dealer in like 14 different cities, and then started cross-referencing everything to start to pull out data and see what's going on. So like we can see, here's the average number of reviews that dealerships have. Here's the average number of questions that dealerships have in the Q&A section. Here's how many of those questions were actually answered by the dealership. So a lot of stuff like that. It's been really interesting to start digging through that data.
Well, as you mentioned, the Google business profiles, the new name, I still like to call it Google My Business because we've been saying that for such a long time.
Exactly.
But on this speaking tour, I pulled up local dealers, and I think only 20% had their Google business profile set up correctly. Dealers can have inventory. Yep. They can have product feeds. They can have information on EV products.
Yep.
They can have product showcases for the new EV vehicles. Very few had it set up properly. And Greg, I scratch my head. It's not that you haven't written about it or I haven't written about it or other people. Why is Google business profiles, and I was going to say Google My Business because it just sounds like an old friend.
Yeah, it's so much, it rolls off the tongue easier to say Google My Business than Google Business Profile because you have that GBP are hard consonants. It's just more difficult to enunciate that.
Yeah, like why is it still somewhat of an orphan? Is it because it's not part of a pay-per-click campaign that is like an instant drug and instant leads? Tell me what your thoughts are on that.
I think it's an orphan, but not as much as it used to be. So another bit that kind of pairs with this research nicely is, for years, whenever I spoke at 20 groups, I had a scoring matrix where I would score the dealerships on their SEO. And it was a quick kind of down and dirty mini SEO audit that I would just assign points for. So once I'm done with my presentation, I can say, congratulations, Mr. Dealer at this Ford dealership, you have the best SEO in the room. And hey, Mr. Dealer over here at this other dealership, you have the worst SEO. You've got some work to do. And then a year ago, Jim Dodd, who I've done a lot of these with, said, hey, what if we did a workshop afterwards where, the dealers could use that sheet to score each other, and then they're actually putting stuff into practice and they learn it better. And I said, okay, that's great. So I adjusted the sheet. So now it's all phrased as questions, and then there's a drop down, and whatever you choose as the drop down answer automatically assigns points. So I've now collected all of the ones that I have personally scored over the last year since I started using that version of the sheet, which is 512 dealerships. And as I start looking through there, it scores on the 4 important areas that influence visibility: the on-site section, which is your site and your content, how it's optimized; inbound links; your Google business profile; and your reviews. And across those 4 areas, consistently, dealers scored much better on their Google business profile than anything else. So I think a lot of dealers have caught on to the fact that it's hugely important, but you're also right. There are a lot of dealers out there that don't pay attention. I think, honestly, the smaller town dealers, or the dealers that, maybe it's a bigger town, but you're the only Jaguar dealer in town, so you're just not worried about it because you're going to show up. Those dealers seem to put a little bit less effort because they're going to show up really well anyway. It's the dealers that are in the more competitive markets, the denser markets, that are putting more effort into their Google business profiles because that's more of a game changer for them.
Well, I would agree, right? If you are the only game in town, you may definitely not, push as hard as someone else who's fighting every day to win the jump ball customer. And so I think, we need to do a better job of making it easy for dealers to score their own assets. And if the score is low, right, ask for help. I think that's the biggest thing. Dealers just need to know if their current agency partner is doing the right thing to help them succeed. And Greg, I want to ask you, because at SearchLab Digital, you guys are also Google product experts. What does that mean?
So yeah, for every Google product out there, there is a public support forum. So in this case, I am a product expert on the Google My Business or Google Business Profile Forum. So this is whenever somebody has any sort of problem or issue that they can't solve on their own, they can go to this public forum and create a new forum thread. And then the forum isn't staffed by Google staff members. It's only staffed by volunteers. But volunteers will come in and say, oh, yeah, this is how this works, or, oh, yeah, here's what you need to do. Once you answer things consistently well, you get invited by Google to be what's called a product expert. So you get a little badge, and that way people that come in to get help see that a product expert has answered them. That means they're basically endorsed by Google, and you can really trust that that person knows what to do to help you. And then once you're in that product expert program, if you continue to answer things at a certain pace, well, you start getting escalated in level. Once you get up to gold or platinum level, and I'm a gold level, I'm actually about to be platinum level. When you're at that level, you actually sign an NDA with Google. So I have an NDA with Google that goes out for 5 years. So I know all kinds of stuff that's coming that I'm not even allowed to mention. And then we also have a weekly meeting with the Google Business Profile team. So not support, but actually the Google Business Profile team, to talk about common issues that have been going on in the forum so that we can help people more efficiently with the issues that they have. So I have every morning or every Friday at 10 o'clock Central Time, I have a 30-minute meeting with the Google Business Profile team. And I spend a lot of time every week just volunteering time to help businesses there. But the benefit is I know a whole lot about Google Business Profiles that the general public doesn't know, not because of the NDA, but just because I'm in there all the time helping with all of these weird idiosyncrasies and bugs. So I'm able to help a lot of people because of that. And it also is, I mean, a little bit selfish. It really helps our clients to have that extra level of knowledge.
For sure. And maybe you can comment on something. Maybe 1 to 2 months ago, I don't know if it was just with Buick GMC dealers or GM dealers, but it looked like someone went out and created a whole nother set of GMB listings for GM dealers, and it created havoc, like duplicates. I had a couple different deal, and it felt like GM hired somebody who was incompetent or something else was going on, but I had to untangle, with the reporting a problem and was this just isolated, or did
no
somebody do something weird?
It wasn't as extensive as the same thing happened with Ford last year, where Ford partnered with reputation.com to go set up the separate department profiles for dealers. And at the time, Ford told all the dealers, hey, we're going to partner with reputation.com to get these set up for you and optimize them the right way. It's going to be automatic. Please let us know if you want to opt out because you already have your department set up. So a lot of dealers opted out, and somewhere wires got crossed. And when they did it for everybody anyway. So it created a ton of duplicate listings. I don't know who GM partnered with in this case, but they did partner with somebody to go out and set this up, and they did not do their due diligence. So yeah, there was kind of a lot to untangle there. And it's unfortunate. I get where they're coming from though. On the OEM side, they can surely see that there are a ton of dealerships that do not have the separate departments set up. I've seen the same stuff through our research. That is one of the biggest missed opportunities for dealerships, is not having the separate parts and separate service setups. So they would rather go out and do it because it's so beneficial. They'd rather force it because some dealers, again, especially in the smaller markets, don't care. The problem is you got to be very diligent in your execution plan to not cause problems for everyone that already had it, which wires got crossed. That didn't happen.
Yeah, I remember when I came out with a hyper-local marketing book, and at that time, I think I was one of the first to actually document that dealers should have these 3 listings, and I was a little fearful. I remember just before I published the book, I said I had nothing from Google in writing, and it was so amazing because I was speaking at an OEM meeting and I was proposing this, and somebody in the room lifted their hand and said, by the way, your suggestions seem to go along with Google specific recommendations. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And they're like, well, they did this study for us and they put this PDF together. And I'm like, can I see that PDF?
Yeah.
I was like salivating. And they said, yeah, let me forward it. And lo and behold, I'm talking about 1 week before I'm hitting the publish button. And there it was. It showed Chevy dealers specifically, I guess GM or Chevrolet in particular were some of the early first testing adopters with these, a parts department and a service department. And I was so relieved. Now, here we are 5 years later, and I've put out a book, you've written, George Nenny's out there writing, and dealers still don't have this. So sometimes I scratch my head. Is it worthwhile being an author? Is it worthwhile blogging? For sure, we've been able to build businesses and helping dealers, but it is frustrating on the low-hanging fruit that's just still there and, not picked.
You'd be surprised too. Part of that big research project looked at the categories that were chosen in Google Business Profiles. And as you well know, there's 10 slots that you can choose for categories. Most businesses don't have 10 that apply, but dealerships do. There's more than 10 categories you can choose for sales, more than 10 for service, and more than 10 for parts. Yet something like, I don't remember the exact number, but something like 40% of the dealers only had a single category chosen. So it's crazy. And like one of the most common categories chosen was just car dealer. like the most generic thing that you can choose that's not going to help you show up more often in searches, yet that's what a lot of dealers are picking. So yeah, you're right. It's kind of frustrating when it's like, guys, I've been telling you how to do this 5 or 6 times a year at conferences for 10 years. And I do a weekly video series talking about it. And I write blog posts and I've written books and all these things. And you've done it. And George Nenny's done it. And all these people have done it. And it's still not getting done. But again, I think from what we're seeing, at least from the research project, the people that tend to put less effort into their Google business profiles are the people that are in a more rural market where they're pretty much going to show up even if they don't optimize. So I guess I get that. But even still, that doesn't mean it's not a massive opportunity to show up better and more if you do put the effort in.
That's right. And thank you for that context, because I think that's important. I think rural dealers sometimes are underserved because maybe their budgets are smaller, and maybe agencies don't go after those smaller dealers. And I love the context. Let's pivot for a minute here. Paid search, and you mentioned personal injury attorneys. Like if you want to see cost per click
That's
off
nuts.
the charts, you do like divorce attorney or personal injury lawyer. I mean, 40, 50, 70, maybe even $100 a
But
click.
you want to see crazy ones, do HVAC repair in Dallas, and it's like $700-800 a click.
I love it. So what about dealers who say, Brian, all my new cars are being sold pretty much before they hit the lot, but used car turn rates are starting to slow down. My inventory is growing. I'm a little concerned. There's a lot of VIN-based advertising platforms out there now, whether it's lot links or individual dynamic inventory ads using technology platforms. I'm sure you and
Yep.
we use ourselves. What's the kind of the state of the industry on VIN specific advertising? And we also see now the VLAs, right? The vehicle listing ads. Are
Everybody
VLAs?
loves those, and they're so worthless. It's window shoppers. Nobody ever converts off of them, but dealers love them because it's a new shiny object that's cool. But, we tell our dealers, don't spend very much money on it. It's a small percentage of your spend. Don't worry that, don't do the whole, my competitor's there, so I need to spend a ton of money to be there too, because who cares? Your competitor's wasting money on it too. The biggest problem with paid search in automotive is most of the vendors out there are just fully automated. They're going to say, oh, you're a Ford dealer. They're going to click a button. That's going to generate your campaign, and then your campaign runs on full automation. So there's tons of wasted spend. Nobody's paying attention to what's actually going on and what humans are finding you. They're not updating your negative keywords to lock out unqualified potential customers. And sure, it works. Everybody's doing it, so they wouldn't be doing it if it didn't work. But having an actual human in there touching things and working on that account makes such a massive difference over the same cookie cutter BS that everybody else is doing. So that's really a huge opportunity. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff where you can advertise for specific VINs, but we're not even really pushing that lately. Like the way we approach it when we work with dealers, both on the SEO and the paid search side, is there's a lot of vendors out there that will just continually tell you, you need to spend more, you need to spend more. If you want to do better, spend more. You want to beat your competitor, spend more. Our goal is to get you to spend less, which seems counterintuitive, but we want to be the most effective stewards of the dealership's money, and they give us X amount of dollars to spend on paid search. We want to be the most efficient we can be with that spend and get them the most and best leads that they can get for that money. And that doesn't mean spend more. A lot of times we're coming in off of one of those automated solutions and they're switching to someone like us, and we could tell them they can spend significantly less money, sometimes 30 or 40% less money, and get more leads because we're just being more efficient and we're being smarter about what we're doing. And right now, nobody's struggling to sell new cars. So I don't think new cars is really a smart paid search play. I think the smart paid search play at an individual inventory level is for used cars for sure.
Yep.
And a lot of people don't do it well. And if you do it well, it absolutely slays.
And that goes back to my general frustration And my new initiative with the Automotive Standards Council for GA4,
Yep.
Google's bidding engine in all industries has proven itself to be brilliant, but it needs signals to optimize campaigns. And we've been, as an auto industry, very sloppy at the signals we send back because we're not e-commerce. We don't have checkout. We don't have a shopping cart value. And so for years, we've been using click to call as a conversion metric, even though that 30% of those click to calls never connect. We assume click to call is for sales, even though 80% is service. So in the new GA specification, Greg, we're going to be able to break out chat, text, forms, and phone calls by department, which will allow companies like SearchLab Digital to just input the sales signals for sales campaigns and the service signals for service campaigns. I think that's going to take Google ad spend to another whole level of efficiency. And it's odd that it may have taken to 2023, right? So many years after Google Ads was first released to get the right signals working.
And that's not even the most important part of the whole GA4 Council. I think the most groundbreaking, absolutely mind-blowingly awesome part of the GA4 Council is that all the website providers are participating. So it's going to be consistent, and it's not going to be that headache when a dealer needs to switch website providers because everything's tracked differently with different events. Now it's going to be consistent throughout, which is what you guys tried to do years ago with VistaDash, and it just never worked.
Yeah, it didn't work because too many people had too much code built up for what that would call their spaghetti mess of universal analytics. So since everyone's kind of in the same boat, GA4 is unstable right now, reporting is unstable or limited. And so by setting up these event standards now, even though the reporting capabilities of Google Data Studio are limited, or even the own dashboard tools, at least we'll have the data standards in place that as Google catches up, it will be better. But I'm also believing, Greg, not only for interoperability, not only for large groups being able to have the same events across different web providers, but I think for, as you mentioned, the boutique agencies that are making sure goals are set up and the right goals set up for different departmental campaigns, they're going to see, I think, a renaissance in performance.
Oh, I absolutely agree. I think it's going to be a massive, massive boost to the agencies that go above and beyond the cookie cutter stuff. Or there's a lot of dealerships out there, especially groups that have their own internal teams running these things. And, same thing with them. They're going to be able to do so much better than what they can now just because of the standards across the board.
Yeah, and I'm really excited to have Marchex on the council this year. I'm really excited with how far they're willing to take the call outcomes and push them back in the GA4. That's going to set the bar high, and super excited as that rolls out at the Modern Retail Conference. Greg, you and your team are going to be there. What are you looking forward to sharing at MRC in November that maybe dealers haven't heard before?
Yeah, that's a great way to phrase it, because I do kind of have the reputation of, oh, Greg's talking about movies again, and he's talking about the same SEO stuff. This time I'm going to be talking about our research. So instead of saying, hey, here's how to do SEO, I'm going to say, here's what everyone else is doing, and here's what you need to be better than the average on if you want to win. And so all the research from the big Google Business Profile project, we're going to be sharing that, and we're also going to be sharing research from the audit, the scoring matrix thing that I mentioned earlier. So both of those are going to be in there. So it's going to be packed with actionable data saying, here's what you need to do to win, and here's why.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, I am so excited to have you at our conference. You are a favorite when people know that you're speaking. Your workshops are always packed and sprawling out the door. If you're a dealer and you want to really lean into the next steps to evolve your retail operation, I encourage you to go to modernretailingconference.com and purchase your tickets. It's November 13th, 14th, and 15th in beautiful Palm Beach. We have discounted rooms for the people who are attending the conference at the O Hotel and Resort. It used to be a Ritz-Carlton. It's a beautiful property right on the waterfront. We have a packed agenda, really amazing thought leaders. So check out the agenda, and you're not going to want to miss it. Also, if this is the first time you're listening to one of my podcasts, you should know that there are dozens of podcast interviews with automotive leaders, disruptors, and innovators on my podcast channel. And this is part of a series that's leading up to the Modern Retailing Conference. We're releasing 3 interviews per week, every week in September, October, and November, leading up to the show, because we want people to get excited about the quality of conversations and dialogue that are going to be present at the Modern Retailing Conference. Greg, if dealers listen to today's podcast wants to learn more about your company, what's the best way to reach out to you?
Easiest way is to just email me. It's just greg@searchlabdigital.com. Super easy. Or you can just go to searchlabdigital.com and fill out the contact form. Or we're actually about to add a texting functionality where anyone can text us, because that's way better than chat anyway. So any of the above gets you to me, and I can answer any questions you might have.
Okay, well, that's clear as a bell. Greg, thank you. And for everyone who's listening today, thank you for your time. See you in November at MRC, and I'll catch you next time on another podcast session.